Zan, how you doing, brother?
Brian, it's been a week. I'm telling you, it's only Tuesday.
Only Tuesday, baby. Only Tuesday.
It's been rocking and rolling.
Is that a good thing?
Well, you asked me how my day had gone, and when I get home tonight and I think back through the day, it's going to be a grand, successful day. But you have to stop and reflect at the end of the day. Sometimes go, yeah, I did get it all done. So, how about you?
Man, it is Tuesday. I've been in corporate meetings. I think I told you, we talk about measure it, you can manage it. So in my world, I have 6 regions, and we've met with each regional manager, gone through every branch, and done that for the better part of 2 days. And as grueling as it may sound, they're actually some of my favorite meetings of the month because you really are getting, you're very in tune to what's happening. And so I enjoy them. They just, it's kind of like when we talk about speaking, you do that for so long, it drains you. The good news is for me, I like walking. When I get done in here, I go down to the shop, and which, we spend a lot of time in there, and get to play with lures. Now, I want to show you something, Zane. I did something 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were talking about doing something for the first time. Yeah. What's out of my comfort zone is soft plastics. It's a whole nother world. So I do a lot of research. Very grateful. I've developed some relationships with guys over at AI. Angling AI, which is artificial FISH. I think that's funny. Intelligence. Yeah, it's artificial intelligence, epic bait molds, those guys, and dead on plastics. And so they told me exactly what needed to happen. And I thought my first one's going to turn out, it's going to swim like a brick. It's going to turn out, all different colors and stuff. So I'm just going to do a clear one. I want to show you something. They helped me with the mold design, but check this out. I don't know if you can see that. Look at the detail on this thing.
How in the world do you do? Look at the scales on it.
I know. So here's the cool thing. I did this one clear, but I made poured several. It sits like this. But this belly, I've been able to make one that has a clear belly, and you make a skin on the outside. Then you go back in and you layer it. So got some that look just like rainbow trouts. I thought of you. Oh. And then this one I went back and I really trying to get a good group of bait to hit the bottom with. But 24 hours ago, I didn't have these. This is what I did last night, just kind of clearing my head. And I got to tell you, I walked in the house and Jennifer's like, "You're in a good mood." I was like, "Look at this." And she's like, yeah. It got her excited too, but not nearly as excited as it did me.
Oh, man.
So, and my last thought is, you work really hard. I've worked really hard. And I decided that I'm going to take a little bit of a sabbatical. You and I will still be together next week, I hope. Yeah. But I may look a lot more laid back. I'm going to take off when we finish up Friday, and I'm not going to. I'm sure I will think about the mortgage world, but I'm going to check out for about 9 days. I'm going to spend as much time possible on the boat and in my shop, and that's really working on lures and spending time on the boat. That's all that I'm doing, and I hope that you can figure out a way to come join me, because how great would it be to film this on the water?
I think we can make that happen. We'll get our calendars together here. But that's a theme of what we talk about is recreation. Mm-hmm. And the term recreation of your mind. If all you do is work, when I was a boy, they had a saying, what was it? Makes Jack a dull boy. If all you do
all
is
work and all play.
Yeah. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Well, it makes your brain dull. And if I have a flaw in my life, I have not played enough. you have a better balance of that. I tend to work.
Good. Now, I got to tell you though, the hardest thing for me, I just said to you, I'm going to check out next week. I'm not going to think. Every vacation that I can remember, minus two, and one of them was because my wife put me on a cruise ship that I'd never been on a cruise ship before, and I had no communication. The first 48 hours, I'm about to lose my mind. But I finally realized if I've done my job correctly, if I've hired the right people, they're going to do what they were hired to do. The odds of the house burning down while I'm gone is very, very slim. In fact, they may get more done without me there because they are probably much better at it than I am anyway. Oh, yeah. Right? And so I've not done a good job in the past. I can remember a lot of our vacations sitting on the balcony or on the beach or sitting near the pool. I've got a great view, but I'm still heading out in my laptop or on the phone, walking around, waving at the girls. And I just thought, you know what? I usually take 2 weeks a year, and I work both of them. This year, this is Brian's vacation. It's really me by myself, clearing my head. And then in mid-July, we're going to go back to our favorite place, which is Anna Maria Island. I've already got Anna Maria Island is up. It's over near Tampa, Longboat Key area.
Oh, yeah.
Got a great little place on the beach. We found it by accident a few years ago, and great snook fishing. So working on a charter trip, one with the whole family, and then I'm trying to work out a one-on-one guide ratio tarpon fishing. And so if I can work that out that week, that would make 2 really good weeks this year.
I've got a great guide for fly fishing for tarpon right in there. If I'll give you.
Hey, yeah. I'm going to tell you like I tell all our guests. After this segment, if you'll hang on, I need to get some information.
That's right. I'm going to give you the guide. We used him on Charlotte Harbor there at Sanibel Island.
Yeah, same area.
Marco Island, same area. He's a fly fishing guide for tarpon, and yeah, I'll give you his name and number. We loved him. He did a really good job with us.
So I'm going to change gears if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Every day, I'm knee deep in the mortgage world, and every day you're knee deep in the real estate world. Yeah. There's a lot of data that's out there, and I know you believe everything that you read on the internet, and I don't recommend that. But I really just, I know a lot of people who watch this, and we thank you for watching. Appreciate you subscribing, by the way. But a lot of people who watch this and are in that industry. Yeah. There's a lot of people who watch this who are in the market, right? And they're getting bad information. So you being the real estate expert, I want you to kind of bring us up to speed to what's really happening in the world today, if you don't mind.
Well, I was looking around for some paperwork. I had 2 different meetings this afternoon trying to brief people on what's really going on in real estate. I'll boil it down to the 3-minute version.
All right.
This market that we are in is not a bubble. It is not a phenomenon, and it's not going away. Here's why. For the last 13 years, actually now 14 years in the United States, the home building industry has failed to build enough houses. And over that 14-year period of time, we now, the experts that I follow estimate we are 4.5 to 6 million homes short of current demand.
And that's today.
That's today.
Today's
this day.
We're not talking about the people who are entering into that tomorrow.
No, that's right this minute. So we need to build 1 million houses in the United States. Now that's 1 million apartments, 1 million single family or condos or whatever. Total construction needs to be 1 million homes this year to keep up with this year's demand.
Mm-hmm.
So for 14 years, we have way underbuilt. So we must overbuild for the next 5 years,
Wow.
10 years before we catch up. Coupled that with every neighborhood, community, burg, town, city is regulating housing growth out of existence. The fact that 25% of the cost of the next house you buy is government regulation. The construction industry is struggling to find qualified workers. There's so many factors in here. This thing isn't going away. So if you own real estate, yahoo. If you don't, buy it now. Oh, it's getting too expensive. Wait 10 years and tell me that same thing.
Exactly right.
I was here in the 70s. Now, I was young, but I watched real estate race up in value. We are in that same place today. So my only advice, and let's couple that with the lowest interest rates, 30-year fixed rate. Now, I know you don't get into all that, but I'm not going to quote rates, but the truth is the mortgage industry right now, y'all are giving away money. I mean,
it's as close to free money as you can get.
It's ridiculous. And if you can borrow money for 30 years and lock it in at the rates we have today, and here's what most people don't understand. The United States is the only country on this planet that has 30-year money. Go to Canada, you'll get a 5-year balloon, maybe hold your interest rate for a couple of years. Australia, 5-year adjustable rates. Europe, we have the only financial system on the planet that allows you to do a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Mm-hmm. There's no way not to buy. And one of the charts, I think it's on the floor over there, is the renter wealth in the United States. If you rent a house, your total financial wealth right now is about $8,000. If you own a house, your total financial wealth is about $290,000. We have 65% of American population, 65% own their own home. Less than 10% of American has substantial money in the stock market. We store our wealth in residential real estate. And a couple of weeks ago, I picked up a number, $26 trillion is the equity, the value of houses in the United States.
With a T.
With a T, trillion. That's 26 million millions. There's only $16 trillion worth of commercial property in the United States. Wow. And that just blew me away. Because, shopping centers and apartments, it doesn't even stack up to houses. So my advice, buy now. If you already own a house, buy another one. If you don't own a second home, get one. If your kids need a house, help them buy one. But right now is the time to buy.
Zan, you said a couple of things on this. I had in the last 3 or 4 weeks, 3 or 4 people I know have called me and said, I'm thinking about buying a house. They owned houses in the past. Situations happen now, and for the good, they moved and they decided they're going to rent to get another place. But now they're saying real estate is so expensive. And I said the same thing that you said, and that is they're waiting for it to go back down. And I said, well, you might be able to afford something when you retire, but the odds are slim, because the truth of the matter is right now, it's not moving that way. And it's not, I agree with you. And this is Bryan's opinion based on observation, that we're not in the situation that we were in 07, 08. We're not. There's a major difference there. Right. And here's the big thing. This is basic economics, supply and demand. That's exactly what we're dealing with. And you just gave those figures about, I think you said $6 million short, right?
Yeah, 6 million houses.
The other side of it is what created the housing crisis was being able to fog a mirror and make an X and get a loan.
Yeah, back in 2000 to 2000.
They had loans called 228s. It was fixed for 2 years and it jumped up 3 or 4%. They had the ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets. Hey, you fog a mirror, let's go. If you had a 580 credit score, let's go.
Right.
Stated income product. Irresponsible lending, and this is a different subject that also the government had something to do with that too.
Oh, it was driven by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
So nowadays, when we're looking at, I got in the industry a long time ago, but back then we did not have laptops. If you got a credit report, we had to order it, and there's a lady named Barbara Dudley. In fact, she was right down the road from where your office, where you're sitting right now. And about 2 or 3 days later, they would come with an envelope kind of like that, and it had all these credit reports in it. It took a while to go through to make sure that your credit report was right, that you qualified. You had to meet certain guidelines on debt to income ratios. All of a sudden, things became technology that allowed it to become easier. We started getting laptops. But also they became a little bit more loose on the guidelines. There's this big push. Everybody's got to get a mortgage. Everybody's got to get a mortgage. Today, a lot of the guidelines really over the last 5 to 8 years have reverted back to really pre-2005, 6, 7. And so it's kind of interesting to me that we look at the same ratios. We look at people being qualified mortgage, where they at, do they actually qualify? Lending is as responsible today as it has ever been. Right? 100%. It's ever been. It's to be as easy as it is to get a loan, you still got to qualify. Yeah. You still got to qualify. But if you don't qualify, then you rent a house and we can show what you got to do to meet those guidelines. We don't have the same issue in our industry, and when I say ours, I'm talking about yours and mine collectively, that we had during that time frame. So I look at it really as a basic economics piece that there's supply and demand. Now, what we've done to kind of help with that, we started offering a bridge loans and banks don't even do that, right? So we started doing a bridge loan because people can't put their house on the market. Right. They got to be able to make an offer today with no contingency. Going back to the supply and demand, what happens is we're seeing offers today that people are saying, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars above the appraised value. I mean, it's gotten crazy from that standpoint, but the values have gone up. I do not see it coming back to where you're going to see a foreclosure every third house. I don't see that happening because of responsible lending. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And one of the myths in the news media is that, we have this mortgage forbearance through the COVID thing and people aren't having to pay their mortgage and there's going to be a flood of foreclosures. No, because if you're in financial trouble in your house today, you simply put it on the market, it's going to sell, you're out from under the loan. Boom, done. There's no waiting 6 months and hoping you get to sell it. So yeah, this is true supply and demand. This is true market dynamics. And I've got half a dozen books over there from the financial crisis of the 2006-7 craziness. And you're exactly right. The lending industry is as responsible today as it's ever been, and it's making good loans. It doesn't help.
There were a lot of companies, by the way, a lot of companies. I can remember in 2005 or 6 or 7 sitting in an MBA, I call it the back room. I got invited to the past presidents. I wasn't a president. I was still trying to figure out how to spell mortgage. But I got invited to this.
In the Mortgage Bankers Association.
Yeah, right. And we're at Myrtle Beach and we're sitting in this back room and we were having that dialogue that said, this bubble is getting big. This is going to be a problem. And the people that were in that room, even that time, the company that we had, Advantage, you knew that, companies like I'm with today, we stayed away from that type of lending. However, these folks came in and made a lot of money. They did they had a great business, but overnight, gone. How many people did you know that were writing loans today didn't even know how to do it. And the next day they're bagging groceries. I mean, I don't mean that disrespectful. I'm saying there's overnight it changed, and there's a lot, the companies that were left after that, they're the ones who did things the right way, and we're able to reset and continue doing it the right way.
Yeah, and that was that window between 2000, 2006 that everybody in the real estate industry, the mortgage industry said, this is nuts.
It was scary, Zan.
Yeah.
This, what we're dealing with today, it's not scary to me at all. No. What scares me on that is being able to keep up, because it's crazy right now, but it's a different crazy than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. And another myth in the news media is the lack of inventory. There's no houses. And yet the volume of sales of houses in the United States in 2020 was the largest we've seen in 10 or 15 years. 2021 is even bigger. Houses are coming on the market. They're just selling instantly with multiple offers. So the volume of sales is still there. It's not like there's only 9 houses to sell in the whole city and I can't get one. Yeah, you can, but you got to be standing on go, which brings them back to your bridge loans. But you got to be ready, and you got to have a good realtor working for you to help you find those houses. And I told my wife the other day, I said, it's time for us to buy. We buy investment real estate. I said, it's time to buy because I'll give you an example. I have a client in Canada, and 5 years ago, that client, I consult with this company. They said, we can't sell houses because there's nowhere to go. If you sold your house at that time, there's no apartments, there's no temporary house, there's no rentals, there's nowhere to go. So the market comes to a complete stop. That's not what's going on in the United States right now. The market's is dynamic. The trick is you got to be out there in it. So it's like swimming. You can't wade into you got to jump off the deep end and hope you can find the right house if you're getting ready to buy.
That's awesome. And I appreciate you hitting them because there's a lot of bad. I don't know if you watch the news as much as I don't watch it that often, but when I flip through and I see something that deals with real estate or mortgages, I got to tune in for a minute, right? I got to tune in and see what they're saying. So the reality of it is we're not in the bubble we were 13 years ago. We're not. No. We have a supply and demand issue. And quite honestly, there's never been the best time to buy the house is right now.
Right now.
Right? You can't, if you did buy one last week, it's okay. You better do it now because next week you'll be wishing you had.
Yeah. Don't wait. One of the meetings I had earlier today was with our city government. And they came and said, we need houses inside our city. And I was like, yeah, and let me tell you what's going to have to happen to get them there. That was what that meeting was. We had a whole room full of planners and builders and realtors. And the meeting was the city's going, we realize we have a housing shortage. Thank you for waking up. So yeah. Buy now, avoid, because 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to wish you had, because the real estate prices don't fall. If the markets level off, we just stay in our house until it's worth what we paid for it. It's not like stocks and bonds. Okay, let's sell it, even though we don't do that. We just stay put. So real estate prices are going this way. Interest rates are going that way. This is the perfect storm.
I'm not, again, I'm very proud of and here's the crazy thing. Last year was crazy in the mortgage industry because you also had the refi boom. It was a major refinance boom. And it was an anomaly, right? This year, I mean, we're already seeing it trend 65, 70% purchase. And the pipelines are still full, Zan. So you're right. The houses are there. People are buying those houses. You just have to realize that if you're looking at one house, you might want to look at 3. You might want to look at 3 because I've had several agents tell me third time's the charm. So
Well, my example of earlier this year, last year, you helped me purchase a house
Yep.
in the mountains of North Carolina. We found it, it sold. It came back on the market. We tried to buy it. It sold to somebody else. It came back on the market. We finally got it. You helped me do that. So it helps to know Brian Wright or
Donna King.
Donna King out of Asheville, North Carolina with Union Home Mortgage.
By the way, Donna
can we get
King,
them on the show?
I'll say Donna King is a construction firm expert. She is as many second homes as you have in Western North Carolina. She's really good at that. And then her sister, owns Caldwell Banker King, which is an incredible franchise that she has in the western part of the state. Both of them, I don't know if you've ever interacted with them at the same time. Actually been in a meeting with them at the same time. I have, and they are absolutely hilarious. Having Terry King and Donna King on, and they have agreed to
come on the show.
Yeah, they actually were like, "Why not?" And I was like, "Why not? Come on!" They were joking with me, but they Donna King, by the way, you may not know this about Donna. Donna absolutely loves to fish, probably as much as I do, Zan. He loves it. And anytime I'm talking about it or posting a picture or something, she's like, Brian, she calls me Brian Wright. Brian Wright, we got to go. So anyway, they are, we just got to get them scheduled when their schedules are able to be compatible. So I want to do something different tonight. We don't have a guest by design, but it's kind of crazy that last fall, we had a small conversation. Hate to be fun to do this. Come December, we were talking about it again. January, February, about mid-February, we said, hey, let's just do it.
Just do it.
So that was 13 weeks ago tonight that we started a to-do list. Look at that.
This is my to-do list for the year, and here's what it says. Oh, come on, Zan, find it. It's on page 2. Start a HGTV show with Brian Wright.
Woo!
Well, we're not on HGTV yet, but we may be. But yes, this has been 13 weeks.
Tonight's the 13th week. And so I kind of went back and was thinking the first 3 weeks, I mean, I went back and watched them, and I know it's only been 13 weeks, but I feel like we've grown, right? Because I kind of laughed, and I was looking at the first one, and we laid a little bit of foundation. The second one, we were talking about various things and coaching, and the third one, I think we actually went through housing and real estate, really what the trends are there, and I think we were really trying to find out what our voice really was. Yeah. And so week 4. Now, I don't know if you remember this. Week 4, we had Paul Norris. Paul Norris has been a friend of mine for a long time. He's my insurance agent, agency manager in Bladen County. He was the first person that we had kind of come on as a guest. And really, we also did a cooking segment that night. I forgot about that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was the chicken wing night, right?
Chicken wing night. That's right. Get back to cooking.
Yeah, we got to.
I got a chef that will come on with us.
Oh, yeah, I want to hear that. I want to do that.
Yeah, she's writing a cookbook, so we'll get Allison Mooney to come on. I've had her fried chicken. Oh, my God.
Hey, look, if she'll send me some, I'll be good, right? Hey, tell me this. Here's the deal. Paul Norris, do you remember that conversation?
I've got my notes.
Oh, that's even better.
And I'm looking at the first one I highlighted.
If I'm not mistaken, Paul really talked to us because the point I want to make here is when we go through the kind of a 90-day review. By the way, I do this. I don't know, and I know you do as well. We review our stuff weekly, but 90 days, I step back and I ask that question. And I always talk about this with my friend Terry Fisher, is that typically we go on a guy's trip, right? Fly fishing or something like that. And we ask each other, what did you do right the last 90 days? What did you do wrong? No holds barred.
I want to go on one of those.
Then the next conversation.
I've been on those.
The next conversation is, all right, Brian, What are you going to do to make certain that what you did right, you did better, that you are better at, but what you did wrong, you don't do again? And if you do that every 90 days, knowing you have to sit down, it's amazing the impact that it has on you, right? You can't help but grow from that. And so when I look at this, we've been 90 days in, 90 days. And we're looking at what do we do right? We've had some great guests. What do we do wrong? Well, that list is too long to go over on this show.
Might be my cooking.
But what I like to do is kind of start with Paul.
Yeah.
And there's lessons that we have learned. If nobody watching this learned anything, I learned a lot. But there's lessons that we learned from each of these guys. So when I see Paul Norris, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
I wrote this down. He said, the best advertising is a satisfied customer.
So that is major truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what are they going to do? They're going to talk. And you even went further that episode and said, and the worst advertising is just the opposite, right?
Unsatisfied. That's exactly right.
Well, what was kind of funny to me is that you and I have been talking about the importance of relationships, right? Yeah. We know Gator, greatness achieved by optimizing relationships. We talked about that.
Say that again. Say it slower.
Inner Gator, finding your inner Gator. Gator is greatness achieved through optimizing relationships. Yeah. So Paul comes on, and Paul and I've done the inner Gator coaching in his office, but without us saying to anybody that comes on the show, this is what we want you to talk about. Paul starts talking about one basic thing. He's in a county, the third largest geography-wise, land size county in the state of North Carolina. There's 100 counties in North Carolina. North Carolina is a big state, tip to tip. He's in the third largest county, but the population is 33,000 people, and he has one of the most successful businesses. I can tell you, without going into details, when you look at the average income in that county, Paul's done very well, and he emphasized it's all about the relationships. And so what I walked away from that is everything we talk about on relationships was spot on. And whether your market is a market the size of Charlotte, North Carolina, or whether you're in small little rural Bladen County, North Carolina, you can build a good business based on the relationships. And because everybody you're talking to has relationships, guess what, Zan? A satisfied customer is your best advertisement.
That's right. I love it.
It was good stuff. Do you remember who our second guest was?
Brian Smith.
Yes, sir. Talked about the power of coaching and asparagus that night, I believe.
That's right. Power coaching and asparagus. I'd forgotten about the asparagus. We were giving you a hard time about eating your vegetables. But he does coaching, and he just ran another big event. I got to speak at it, I guess, last fall. Yep. Y'all just did another big event for your coaching program that he runs. And my definition of a coach is someone, and I got this from Wooten, the great basketball coach from UCLA. He said a coach is a person that makes you do the things you don't want to do so you become the person you really want to become. That's what a coach does. They hold your feet to the fire. And
they're not afraid to tell you corrective action, what needs to be done, right? So this event we just did last Wednesday and Thursday, Brian's the executive coach with Union Home. We've got an internal coaching program. 250 partners are part of it. Probably have a waiting list of 80 to 100 to get in, and it's an incredible program. But we do a summit twice a year, and you did speak at the one in last fall. This one we had Lee Cockrell, he's got a ran Disney World, has 73,000 employees. And I was in the green room. I had to go on to close the event out. And I was in the green room with him for about 10 to 15 minutes. Zan, I couldn't video. And I was looking at all the videos. I can't download them because of obviously licensing. But wow, I learned a lot in 15 minutes, dude. Let me tell you the coolest thing that he said. And I'll go back to Brian. He was talking about leadership. And he said, you want you want to have the best example of a manager or leadership, look to your mother. She never waited to an annual review to tell you what you needed to do better.
Did wrong. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. You're daggone right.
And so I said, hey, listen, I worked for my mom. She fired me 4 times, baby. I get it. I get it. But going back to Bryan, I got a lot of feedback on Bryan's message that night, because I know we talk about real estate mortgage banking a lot, but the truth of the matter is coaching. What I had 2 sessions. I coached 2 sessions today, and I finally just said to the guy, we're going to role play. We're going to role play right now, because I want you to hear what you're saying. Right? You have to stop, listen, and reinforce, right? But you and I both do a lot of coaching, but the messages that I got from that was, you know what? I'm not in mortgage banking. I'm not in real estate, but I've got to have somebody who can help me stay grounded. And there is immense power. I've got a coach. You probably have a coach. I've got mentors. I've got people that I need to look at what I'm doing and say, hold me to I've got people, believe it or not, I know that this is crazy, but I got people that I go to and say, people who, if I said their name, would probably surprise you, because they're pretty, I've built some good relationships, who have said, this is what you've got to do to be better. Because if I pretend like I know what I'm doing, guess what? I'm in trouble, Zan. And it doesn't matter if it's making lawyers, if it's writing loans, this is having this conversation. You can only be better when you got somebody looking at you at 30,000 feet saying, hey, listen, let me tell you something. You're looking at it going this way. Let me show you what you need to do, and I'm going to help you get back on the right path. Am I on there? Am I right?
You're right. Well, while I was thinking, I think we talked about this with Bryan that night. No one makes the Olympics without a coach.
That's right.
You're not going to play professional sports without a coach. How can you make it in a professional business without a coach? And I'll give you his 3 big buckets that night. He said, customers, client care, and track your numbers. Your customers, fuel your industry, but then cater to the clients, be fast and accurate. And then the last was track your numbers. Everybody tracks their numbers, but I run into business, they want me to coach their company or whatever. You go in, you start looking at the company. Well, show me your numbers. Well, we don't know. How did this? I don't know. Well, you got to track. Say it, Bryan, because you're the best at it.
If you measure it, you can manage it. If you manage it, you can perfect it.
There it is.
Come on.
That's going to make my next book. But I'll give you credit, but I'm putting it in my book.
So, Zan, I'm going to take a quick little break right here and say it was interesting. I had somebody from Oklahoma City or Tulsa reach out to me last week. It's like, hey, I saw this episode you guys did, and I think it was Roger Wagner or something. I saw that one. I was like, hey, man, that's great. We talked for a few minutes. And I said, why don't you go back and look at the other episodes? And he's like, where do I go? So real quick, I'll put it at the top. Go to the YouTube channel, and you can go back and look at all 13 of these episodes. And I promise you, in each one of them, you're going to find something that maybe Zan and I didn't pick up on. But there's a lot of meat, not because of Zan or I, but because of the people that we've had on here that have added extreme value to me.
And subscribe.
Hit the little bell.
Hit the bell so that when we post a new one, it comes right to you. Or friend us on Facebook, and you'll get it when we post it.
Yeah. So, Zan, after Bryan Smith, he had a really good friend of mine.
Chris Bain.
Guy that indirectly was part of the tipping point in my life, right? Yeah. I remember Chris said, relax, have fun. And that's his whole approach, right? And he's also an incredible deer hunter. We didn't give him enough credit that night. You should see the deer on this guy's walls. They're unbelievable. And I'm not talking about they look like Montana deer. They are Pender County deer, North Carolina. They're incredible. So your takeaways from Chris Baines?
He said he was talking about relationships. And of course, you got to know people, like them, and trust them. But but he said, we were talking marketing, and he said 3 things. One, automate it. That doesn't mean it's got to be electronic. It means you set up a system so it's auto flow to contact your client base. And you're in a program, so it goes out on a regular basis. That was number 1. Number 2, add value. And he said the greatest value today is a phone call, because we don't do it.
Exactly right.
An email is worthless. Posting on Facebook is worse than worthless. A phone call, a personal contact, not asking for the business, just, and the way we teach it is called FORWARD, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
He actually hit that point that night.
Yep. He said FORWARD, and you're just calling people to see how they're doing. And we're in the South, so it all starts with, how's your mama?
How's your mama, baby?
How's your mom? I mean, that, we're in the South. You got to start, how's your mama? Well, once we find out, then we can move on. I don't know why we leave daddies out of that.
No, that's because you say, how's your mom and them?
Yeah, how's your mom and them? That includes
everybody.
So auto flow, value, and then he said something that if more people would understand this, he said, this is not a transaction business. It is a referral business. So you're not making your living on this deal. You're making your living on all the future transactions. And I've got business books on my shelf over there that say that 100 different ways, but none of them said it as good as he had. It's not about the sale. It's not about this deal. It's about the future deals. And if you do it right, he said, my job is to help people navigate the ship through the storm. And if I can do that, then they will send me more business than I can handle. He's your friend, but I'd like him to be my friend. I'd like to get to know Chris Bain a lot more.
Chris Bain's, in fact, we actually talked that night about the 2 of y'all coming over to the swamp and hanging out, because Chris is, when he said relax, have fun, I think about, part of our code of conduct at work is have fun, but get it done. Enjoy what you do. And Chris is very serious guy. He's a very focused individual. But he also, I cannot recall a conversation in the last 15, 20 years I've had with Chris that the both of us were not laughing at some point in the conversation, no matter how serious it was.
No.
And he keeps the main thing, and he's very good at what he does. Now, look, relationship, coaching, have fun, get it done, automation. It's not a transaction. I'm going through the first 3 or 4 sessions here. I'm sitting thinking, there's a theme, right? There's a theme that we didn't plan. Then you blew me away the next week. I had grown men, Zan, call me and say, I had to pull over because I was about to cry during this thing.
For Allison Blanchard.
Allison Blanchard out of Wisconsin.
Yep.
What a great story that she had. And for me, it was the one thing when I think of Allison Blanchard, I think really a couple thoughts run to my mind. Number one, you never give up.
Never.
And there was a movie called A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Well, I watched that movie numerous times because it really motivates me. I mean, it really does.
I love that.
And he talks about changing your stars.
Yep.
They went from hawking their wedding rings to look at the impact she's having on so many people. And then the other piece I got from it, Zan, I know you actually had some quotes from her, but the other piece that I got from her was the impact that somebody took interest in her. And now she's done the same thing for multiple people. That legacy will continue, and it all started, I think, in Mississippi.
Yep.
So what an incredible story she had.
Yeah. Carlene Alfonso. Carlene Alfonso in Biloxi, Mississippi, helped this young lady, helped Allison get started in her business, brought her to one of my sessions. Is how I met her. The cool part is Before we started today, I spent an hour with Allison. She's done 2 sessions with me now. She asked me to video like this for her. And would you be willing? I said, to spend a couple of hours with you? Yes, because she lights me up.
So should I take that personal? Do I need to call her and take that personal that she didn't even call me? I'm kidding.
She knows me better.
I know that. I know. I'm just messing around.
But I'm looking at 2 of her quotes. One of them was, she said, live every day obnoxiously.
Yeah.
Just
dancing in the street.
Just ridiculously wide open. And then she said, you can either be the victim or the victor, and you get to choose. And she is, if you have not seen that session, you need to go watch Allison Blanchard, because grown men will cry. Everybody, because her story. And right now her goal is to inspire 10,000 women by the end of this year. And she's got a t-shirt company. She's in the real estate industry. Her 11-year-old daughter wants to be a chef. She told her mama, I don't even want to go to school. I just want to be a chef, a baker. She's doing some amazing things.
But you think about this. She inspires 10,000.
Yeah.
Each of them inspire 10,000.
Yeah. You got a billion people. That's a lot.
And here's the other thing. I go back to, we talk about all the time, you never know the impact that you have. Carlene Alfonso.
Right.
Had she not done what she had done with Allison, imagine all the other folks that may not have had the impact and made the change in their life they need to. It's a powerful story. It really is.
That's good stuff.
The next week was our old friend. And if you're watching this, Mark, I don't mean your age. I mean the length of time we know you.
I do. He's old.
Mark Given. He's written, I don't know, 150 books. They all
9, 10 books, something like that. It's crazy. And
it was all trust-based.
Yep.
He also is the guy that rockfish season is winding down in Roanoke Rapids. But I got to tell you this. I think this is funny. I built a spreadsheet. I need to show it to you. That actually has each speaker, right? Paul Norris. I know Paul Norris has 120 acres or so on the Black River. And so he has a great place to turkey hunt. So I put to follow up with Paul in February for April, May turkey hunting. For Allison Blanchard, I said, we need to catch that in the spring or fall for fishing and hunting. I put in here that we need to get in touch with Mike, or not Mike, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Mike Spazio, with Mark. We got to get in touch with him in December, January to plan our striper fishing trip. I'm telling you, 2022, we're going to have so many adventures in. Oh, man. That's going to be crazy. So I figured look, I have been keeping up. They told me on air, they said yes. And so I'm writing them a little note that says, hey, it's January. I'm going to get our trip scheduled.
Only you would put it on the Excel spreadsheet. Only you.
It's there too. I can just
imagine.
I'm going to pop it up real quick on this screen just so you can see
it. Only Brian Wright would do that. And I want to be there. That's all I got to say.
I give you a hard time, but I want you there. So Mark had a great message.
Yep. Yeah, he was talking about the 7 keys to business success. And I'll just do them real quick. Brand, you got to brand yourself. Yep. The culture. You and I were kind of blown away by legal protection.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Because I'd never thought about that. Yeah, the way you incorporate and insurance and all that. Got to have a coach, mentor, mastermind group. Wow. Reoccurring.
So look, we've heard that. Mark was our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th one. Yep. And we heard that at least 4 times in the week prior.
Yeah. Well, everybody, it's the result of a relationship with other people. 5th, he called it the proof of superiority. I call that being an expert in your industry. People ask me all the time, how do I become a speaker? Become an expert. Then they'll call you to do speaking. Build your business so you can sell it, and then influence or, your database and how to give back to the people that you do with. I mean, he gave us some great information. I'd highly recommend it. And that was the sailfish show.
Nope.
That was the next week. Next week you got your sailfish.
Yeah, we saw Mark, and then the following that was on. We saw Mark on Tuesday, and then on Friday the 23rd is when we caught the first sailfish on the gator. Yeah, that was a big deal. Big deal. In fact, Zan, this is I filled out all my paperwork for the citation on that fish. So I got a citation from the state coming, so I'm pretty excited. Okay. That was a fun show to me. It was just I love having our guests, but that night was a fun night to me. Yep. I went back and watched it again, and it's funny. Those of you watching may think this is crazy. But I like to sit down in the swamp and I'll cut the episode on, not because I don't enjoy seeing myself or hear myself talk, but what happens is there is something that I get out of it each time. And again, I've said to you numerous times when you just went through the Paul, the Brian Smith, Chris Baines, Allison Blanchard, Mark Given, when you go through that list, those watching may not have a single impact. Me, I'm having an absolute blast because I feel like I'm a better guy today than I was 13 weeks ago, just because of the people that I'm surrounding myself with here.
Well, it comes back to what you said about coaching. They lead you to a different level or break your bubble or pop your bubble. And then we had Mike Salvaggio. Yeah. And he came on and talked about the power of failure.
Yeah. He was a funny guy.
Oh, he just cracks me up.
You told me about that. It's hilarious. But his whole thing on passing that exam, and he did a great job of telling the story, then coming back with the points. And I got a lot of feedback on Mike's, just random people just reaching out saying, "Hey, you know what? I know what that's like." Yeah. Or you know what? I needed to hear that today. Because, you go back to even Allison's story and knowing that she was at rock bottom and she just woke up and said, okay, this is it. I'm done. Yeah. In a sense, there was failure that had taken to get her to where she was at right then. You have a choice that you have to make. Do I let the failure beat me, or do I say, you know what? We're going to be all right and we're going to make it work. And I can tell you, I don't know this about you personally. I know this about me, and I'm using this as an example. I've got a trash can downstairs that I guarantee you there's 50 different body styles that are in there because I couldn't get it to work. Now, I can easily say this is too hard, I'm going to quit. But it doesn't matter if it's making lures, if it's trying to be successful in the mortgage industry. It doesn't matter with what you do. I had the first time you and I ever spoke together. It was an epic fail for me. You went on to great success, but it was an epic fail for me. I will never forget that day.
Didn't you pour coffee all over your?
Back then, we didn't have the PowerPoint presentations, and I had this big. Dan had asked me to speak at a home buyer seminar at Cliffdale Library on Cliffdale Road in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Yes, sir. I had this big board. I had wrote everything out. The paper that you turn, right? You remember those that you put on the tripod?
Flip charts.
And I fixed me this ultra large cup of coffee, and I set it down. It falls into my box. So yeah, kind of like that. They weren't as nice as one that you have. Apparently, I had the wrong lid because all the coffee went through everything, and I had to wing it. And the problem was, I wasn't prepared enough to be able to wing it to the degree that I needed to. And you can take that and say, you know what?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I shared a story with you a couple of weeks ago, and it may have been offline about golf and the epic fail that I had in golf. And you reach a point, we don't have time to talk about it tonight, but the truth of the matter is this: you reach a point, something will happen, and you have to do like Allison said. And the same thing that Mike said, you know what? Enough is enough. The only person who can change the circumstance is Brian Wright. I got to change this. And you move on. You move on. And you learn. Phil Mickelson just won He's my man. He's my age, right? He just won the PGA Championship. Do you know that 12 days ago, he put a tweet out? If I can find it, I will post it right now. 12 days ago, he was talking about failures that take place and the lessons that learned, and what he's going to do is move forward and learn from these lessons and continue getting better. That's what he's going to do. 12 days later, he's the first guy his age to win the PGA Championship.
I didn't realize it was.
I don't know how to make the point better than that.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a PGA Championship. I just thought it was a golf tournament. I didn't, I don't keep up with golf. I didn't realize it was.
Yes, that was the tournament. It's the PGA Championship tournament. So
no wonder.
It's one of the majors. I think that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, oldest guy to win it. I mean, I think he's the first. Don't quote me on this, and I know you're seeing this on the internet. This may not be true, but if I'm not mistaken, he's the first person over 36 to win it.
Wow. Which, we've all failed. And that's what Mike's lessons was about. Okay, so you failed. Big, hairy deal. Get up. Let's do it again. It's like fishing. Think about fishing. They call it fishing. They do not call it catching.
That's right.
We've both been out so many days where you go, it was a nice day on the water.
Yeah.
The fish weren't there. Yeah, they were. They were watching you, but, And then we had Roger Wagner.
Yeah, but for the record, on your comment you just made about being on the water and just not catching any fish, that happens to all of us, but it happens to Zan more than it happens to me.
I'll go along with that one.
Oh, listen, I'm joking with you, dude. Roger Wagner. Fishing on the Suwannee.
He was fun. I loved his dog.
Judd.
This is a man who, just a normal human, and they said, you ought to run for Congress, and he did. Mm-hmm. Wow. And I'm trying to read my notes. I scribbled so many notes the night he talked about shifting his focus and changing his own destiny. A baseball player that ran in the river bottom in the mud with a backpack and bricks. He said, you live only once. He said, this isn't practice. You get one shot at this. Do it. And then he said, to win, you have to be willing to do what no one else is willing to do. And that's really true. To be a success, one of the sessions I was in earlier today, to have something, you got to be willing to give something else up.
So tomorrow morning, actually I see the clock behind me. In 12 hours, I'm on a plane from Wilmington, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. Yep. And I'm going to spend almost 24 hours with Roger Wagner.
Well, get us on the Suwannee River fishing for Bryan.
Hey, look, part of my goal with this trip is to make certain that we've got some meetings with some folks who are really big offshore guys down there too. Zan, this could be really good for you and I from a fishing standpoint, right? But tomorrow night, let me tell you what's kind of cool. You and I live in North Carolina. There's a ball team called the Durham Bulls. Now, I have never, believe it or not, I have never been to a Durham Bulls game. There was a great movie. Kevin Costner was in the movie, Bull Durham, right?
Yep. One of the greatest movie lines of all times is in Bull Durham.
And what is that?
They hit a home run because the catcher, Kevin Costner, told the batter, and he walks out to the young pitcher and he goes, man, anything that gets out of here that fast ought to have a flight attendant on it.
So the Durham Bulls are playing. Now, listen, Fable's baseball team is the Fable Woodpeckers, right?
Right.
Do you know what the name of Jacksonville's AAA team is?
No.
The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. So I'm sorry, Jacksonville.
I play for the Jumbo Shrimp.
That makes me feel better about the Fable Woodpeckers. But I'm going to watch the Jumbo Shrimp play the Durham Bulls in Jacksonville, Florida. And so I actually have a hat I'm probably going to wear. It has North Carolina on it.
Yeah.
Just
I want pictures. I want pictures.
We're a major sponsor of the Jumbo Shrimp, and so we get to participate. I think Friday night, Roger or somebody's going to be throwing out the first pitch. So that's kind of cool. Roger's story is fantastic, and the one thing that kept coming back to me is he said I was too short playing baseball, right? I was too short. I couldn't hit the baseball to the Grand Canyon, but I was willing to do what nobody else was willing to do. I get up every morning and stolen bricks from my dad's garden and put them in a backpack. He didn't want me to know that I even had bricks in it. And I'd run that dry riverbed because I wanted to be the fastest guy. My hero was Pete Rose. I wanted to be the fastest guy. What a great story. And Roger's personality is something that once you start talking to him, as you said, I'd love just to spend a day on a John boat, Roger. Yeah. And I guarantee you he's probably got 3 in his backyard.
I just want to hear whatever he's got to say.
Then we had last week.
Yep.
I met this man one time briefly after an event that you had at the Realtor Rally in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I kind of walked with him as he was exiting stage left and enjoyed the conversation. But I was really blown away. I actually had a guy from, I don't know if I told you this, from Boston or Framingham, Massachusetts, that I was talking to this week. He's a very smart man, has 7 patents. I'm trying to get him on. But he said, hey, I was watching, you had a PhD on the other day. What a really smart guy. I really enjoyed his conversation. I never knew that Rod enjoyed the outdoors. Oh, yeah. What a great, I Googled the Boundary Waters and did a lot of research on that since last week. And I'm really looking forward to pulling up my Excel spreadsheet and see what date I'm supposed to call him.
Well, I said on the show, and I'll say again tonight, there are 3 people on this planet that I can have super in-depth conversations with. You, my buddy Dave Evans,
I know Dave
McIntyre.
Well, I know all of them.
You know all 3, and you've had these in-depth conversations. But Rod and I have some of these unbelievable conversations because he is a deep, deep thinker, and and he and I have talked about going to the Boundary Waters before, and the truth is, I'd love to be able to sit around the campfire with you and him. Maybe we'll take Dave Evans, and I'll have my dream team together, and y'all can just talk, and I'll just listen. But his presentation, and this is the true teacher and speaker and intellect in him, he related all of his points back to camping in the wilderness, in the Boundary Waters. How to leave your worries behind once you sit around the campfire, and everything's simple, but nothing is easy. And we need to spend more time processing information into knowledge. But one of his favorite quotes, we don't need more leaders, we need more leadership.
I used that this week, by the way.
Oh, really? And see, here's my philosophy. The first time I tell somebody something like that, I'll say, Rod McIntyre told me this. The second time, it's this guy I know in Kansas. The third time I tell it, it's my stuff. Yeah. I'm just telling. Yeah. But Rod is one of those people who never quite thinks the way I think. And so every time I talk to him, I have to go, I never thought of it that way. But he has caused me over the years, some of the greatest aha moments I've ever had have come during a conversation with Rod McIntyre. I had the one that's popping in my head. I'm driving to speak in Greenville, South Carolina, and I'm talking to him. I can take you to the place in the highway. And he said something, and I jotted down what I call the progression pyramid, or the learning pyramid of what a good business person has to do. This, first, that, second, third, fourth, fifth. And it's been one of the greatest things I've ever done because of what he said made me think that way. But there's too much to translate for the Rod McIntyre show. You just got to go watch it.
Well, you actually said that last week at the end. I can't debrief this. I can't debrief this.
I can't. I mean, I'm looking at my pages of notes here. I got 9 pages of notes from him. And,
so, when you and I talk, I share a lot that you say. You said to me, and look, it's already reached that point with me that if I'm speaking, I will say the word inspiration really means to breathe life into. Okay, the first 2 or 3 times I would say, Zan Monroe told me, and if you're around, I'm always like, yeah, Zan actually said. So, right. but here's the truth. And you just said this, and it hit me a little bit different. A lot of times when people think of the word inspire, right? They think of the word inspire. They think of it as this bubbly feeling they get inside, right? They feel good, inspiration. Maybe they're going to now start doing some action, and the action is going to create the motivation. But the word inspire, when you talk about it the way you do and what you just said, you could say something to me. And I'm sorry I keep using this analogy. I can see something swimming through the water, and all of a sudden I think, wait a minute. And I start working on that, and it becomes something completely different. Yeah. It wasn't just that warm feeling I had inside. And sometimes it may be a very frustrating thing because you're trying to figure something out, but you inspire, it pushes you to try and do something outside of your comfort zone, right? You just said you pulled over on the side of the road and were making notes of something that led to something else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He didn't have to tell you the whole thing. He said this, and all of a sudden your mind went over here. And so my hope is, as a result of watching this, that folks become inspired and they do things that are 100 times greater than you and I could ever do.
And that's the whole purpose of why we're doing this. I mean, think about this. I've been inspired by these speakers. I get all pumped up every time we do a show, mainly because I get to play with you and hear what you have to say. But then these folks we're interviewing, they get me pumped up to take my business to the next level. And you get off these shows with somebody and go, man, I got to take my stuff up a notch. I mean, I got to get better.
Who do I think I am?
Yeah. I mean, so I would love to do this again. I think one of the things we need to talk about is the last 90 days. What have we done right and wrong? How can we make the right go better? And then the wrong, you said this tonight, so I'm quoting you now. And then make sure we don't do the wrong again. And that's a great advice for life. If you spent every 90 days of your life saying, all right, here's what I've done right. Here's what I've done wrong. We're going to do a whole lot more of the right and get rid of the wrong. Man, you just, as a human, you just keep climbing the charts. So,
Zan, think about it. If you do that every 90 days, you're doing that 4 times a year. In 10 years, you've done that 40 times. And if you actually followed that,
yep,
and you corrected the wrong and you made better the right, I know that I'm not the same guy I was 10 years ago. Shoot, I'm not the same guy I was a year ago. I'm not the same guy I was 13 episodes ago.
Right.
And exactly. So it's really just, you need to do the measurement and management piece. You need to do that in every aspect of your life.
Oh, yeah.
And the relationship I have with Terry, that's a broad piece. I need to have that conversation with the people who report to me and the people that I report to professionally. I need to have that conversation with my wife. Hey, you know what? What did I do right the last 9 days, babe? What did I do wrong? And I need to make certain that I don't do that again. And you need to be able to talk. You need to be able to love me enough, talk to me, be very honest, and know that I'm not going to take it personal, right? Because maybe it was a misunderstanding, and I need to work on my communication. And I'm not getting into marriage counseling. I'm just saying that it just hit me. It's in every aspect of your life.
You need to go to your kids. Do the same thing with the kids. And we'll all get better.
So I got one last thought for you.
All right.
I want you, I have never looked at this as an advertisement for what you do or what I do outside of here. It really is designed to help people, right? That really is to challenge people to be better. But I do know, and I got to sit in one time. I think it was in 1973. I got to sit in one of the coaching sessions that you do. Oh, it's been a long time, but you never had me back.
Oh.
You never had me back, so I figured I don't know how to take that. But my deal is this: talk about, if you can, the type of coaching that you do, and you have group coaching, I believe. So kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I do both. It's a lot. I do one-on-one personal coaching mainly for business. I don't understand the term life coach, but I coach folks on how to improve their business. But here's what we coach: when you improve your life, you'll improve your business. As you get better as a person, your business gets better. And then we coach entire companies. So we'll take on a whole company, and we coach all their sales staff or their management team, or however that's done. And it's my only advice to anyone thinking about either hiring a coach or getting a coach: you hire a coach to accomplish something. I want to achieve this. That coach gets you there. Maybe then you don't need that coach anymore. So when I take on like a company coaching program, I'll tell them there'll come a time where you're going to have to fire me because you won't need me anymore. When you've absorbed all the things and you then don't recognize the difference between what I'm telling you and what you internally do, you won't need me anymore. And so I work myself out of a job constantly and move on. But I do coaching. If they're interested, you can go to Zan at zanmonroe.com. But it's mainly in the business world. I do coach a little bit in tennis, and mainly for my kids and grandkids now. I teach tennis to them. So, but it's what I do. I've always been a coach. It's what I do every day.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And you're coaching. You're coaching inside.
Yeah, I do a lot of coaching with internally. I do a lot of coaching with growth and recruiting, understanding personality types, working with people on that. We do 2 semesters a year on that. And the one-on-one coaching I do is really designed to understand that all of us have strongholds, right? We have a lot of times strongholds and habits that we've gotten into that we don't even realize that we have, and they're what holding us back. So when somebody comes to me and says, listen, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, same thing that you're talking about. It's kind of interesting. You and I have really never had this conversation, right? Is that when you're looking at, my goal is to help you identify the stronghold, replace it with the right stronghold, and help you get to the next level. And once we accomplish that, we either move forward to try and get to the next level, or like you said, we move on to the next client. But doing that in individual groups, and then I do group coaching, I think is good. And that's Zan. It's one of those things. I think the same thing with you is that whether you're talking to one individual or you're standing in front of a room of 1,000. When you see the light bulb come on, and they don't have to say a word, it may just be them going, oh yeah, you know, right then that something just clicked. That is almost, maybe even better than the feeling of a 85-pound sailfish stripping your line. It's an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing because what you realize is if they really got it, they're going to help somebody else get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I teach one all-day session that first time my wife went with me to it, I said, now I want you to watch the audience. I said, most of the morning from 9 till the first break, they're going to sit back in their chairs with their arms folded doing this.
Who's this guy from Mayberry?
Yeah. Who is this guy? And everything I'm saying to them, they're having to process. I said, when they come back from the first break, everyone in the room will be like this, leaning forward. She said, it was like magic. I said, because they were processing. Now they've accepted. Now we can move them forward. So you can't teach them a thing until they're willing to learn.
I did a session last year on the gator, and it was 2 or 3 hour session. We took a break about halfway. It's the same thing. They're sitting there. Then at the end, but at the very end, there was this one lady. She'd been in the industry. I bet she'd been in it 50 years. I mean, and that's exaggeration. I knew she was a 30, 40-year veteran. And she's one of those agents who would tell you, I know what I'm doing. Oh, yeah. And very, very nice, but very matter of fact. At the very end, I said, does anybody have any questions? And she said, no, but I do have a comment. And the way she said it, I thought, here we go.
Here we go.
She goes, I want you to know I have been to all types of seminars. I have been here. She gave this whole resume of all things. She goes, this was absolutely the most concise, best thing and I needed to hear what you had to say. And my point to that is this, not, hey, was it a great session? One, I was like, oh, thank God she got it. She's not throwing anything. But the point that I'm making is when you're talking to somebody, one of the biggest fears, I don't care if you're in sales, logistics, whatever it is, when you're talking to somebody, no matter how long you have been doing it, you're always going to run to that personality that you think this person is kind of intimidating to me. They probably know more than I do in this conversation. They're never going to buy my product. They're not going to do this. You have that self-talk. You don't really know what they're thinking. You don't prejudge the outcome. Don't determine the outcome before you get the outcome. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And you can't, I had a similar experience. I did a presentation and there was a gentleman who sat the whole time sideways to me. He never looked at me once. I mean, he's right in front of never looked at me.
I'm sorry.
I'm thinking, and he was a big dog in the industry that we were working with. So I get in my car and I'm driving home. My wife calls, how was the day? I went, well, there was this one guy and I blew it. I saw him about 6 months later at a big convention. He's across the room, a couple of hundred people in the room. He looks up and sees me and bolts towards me. I mean, just cuts a path across the room. He pulls out his wallet as he gets there and he pulls out this paper with tattered edges and he goes, you changed my life. I said, excuse me? He said, these 3 things were the last 3 things you said in that presentation. It has completely changed my life. You never know what effect you've had. Just like the 13 weeks of that, we will never know. But I know one thing. It's time for me to go home and get some dinner. It's time for you to go pack. You got traveling. Brother Bryan, it's always a pleasure.
Zan, I enjoyed it. I hope to see you face to face next week.
We're going to get together in a minute and we're going to look at calendars and see if we can make that happen.
All right, brother. Have fun.
I'll do it.
All right.
Yeah.